What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from the Alto again, and this time we are here with Krim, the almighty Septicflesh. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. It's great to have you here.
Thank you for having me, man.
Yeah, it's so awesome to have you here. I'm super stoked to see you guys on this epic tour with Decapitated, Cataclysm, and Allegiant. This is going to be one of, if not the death metal show of the year, and I'm super excited for it. First off, we are well into the record cycle for the latest album, Modern Primitive, which is a kick-ass album. Now that the record is 2 years old this year, we're going to get this question out of the way because I think everybody in the press is asking you this. Can we be expecting some new Septicflesh very soon, or are we still going to continue to hear the amazing work from Modern Primitive?
For this tour, we're definitely going to perform Modern Primitive stuff. You know, it's our first US tour with this album, and it's actually our first US tour since 2019, so we haven't had the chance yet to come over after the whole pandemic. And even though I know that Modern Primitive is now considered already an older album, as I said, yeah, we still haven't had the chance yet to play it for our North American fans. So we haven't started writing new material, but we still have some songs that haven't been released yet. So this is eventually coming out pretty soon, I guess. But we don't have new material like written right now. You know, we have to go back to that actual songwriting phase. Like I said, even for Europe, it's been hard for us a little bit to start our engines again. The whole inflation thing, and it was really tough on us, and we haven't had the chance yet to promote that album. So yeah, it's gonna be a mix of classic Septicflesh hits and of course Modern Primitive stuff. So yeah,
well,
looking forward to it.
So there is a lot to expect on this tour. First off, I am very excited to hear this new stuff from Modern Primitive. I interviewed Christos to talk about Codex Omega on the Encephirum tour that you were on the last time you were here, which was an epic tour. But I feel like that this is almost kind of the sequel to that tour that we've been waiting for so long. Because, of course, we're going to get, classic songs from Modern Primitive and, some Codex Omega. Now, I know you weren't on this particular album, but is there a chance, though, because it is 20 years since the debut of Septicflesh, that maybe we'll get some old deep cuts as well for maybe like Mystic Places of Dawn and whatnot?
I'm very sorry to disappoint you.
Or 30 years, I might add.
Yeah, it's not in our set list, even though I would be totally up to play that stuff, but I don't have certain decisions to make. So I'm totally a fan of the old stuff, and I would be down to play them. But again, we have to decide as a band, and some people rather want to play stuff from Communion up, and it has happened in the past that we played some stuff before Communion, but not recently. We focus more on the new material in a way. So plus. It's quite tough to fit all those songs in a set list. If you want to play new songs and then you have a bunch of those hit songs, because Septicflesh has been around quite some time, it's quite tough to squeeze everything into our playing time. So yeah, unfortunately, no, it's going to be new stuff.
That's totally fine, because I think the new stuff is just as kick-ass as the old one. And I think you were like 5 when the first Septicflesh record came out as well, I think so.
Yeah, I'm 1989, if I said it correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, yeah, I'm 1 year older than the first Septicflesh album, so just to put that into perspective. And the last question I want to have with regards to the tour, any speculation, with Decapitated on board, I love the Carnival is Forever album. Any chance maybe some surprises there, or...
Not that I know of. And even if there would be a surprise, it would be stupid if I say something. But honestly, no. It's cool to hang out with my old buddies again, even though I just recorded one album with them. But yeah, it's gonna be cool to be again on the road. Honestly, it's the first time that I have the chance to play with them again in one of my other bands, because even though they've been touring a lot and I've been touring a lot, somehow we never crossed paths with any of our projects. And now it's the first time that, Decapitated and Septicflesh will play together, and it's awesome to see them shred, because James Stewart is a kick-ass drummer, and I think he does a phenomenal job, so I'm really looking forward to their show. And I guess also that they have a new album out. They will heavily focus on, of course, the new stuff. And I don't even know if they perform anything from Carnivals Forever, honestly. I will be surprised as well.
Every single band that's on this bill, you guys, Decapitated, Cataclysm, and even Allegiant, all have like a library of a discography that we're just going to want to hear everything off of. So, but I think that's what I find so exciting about it, because there are bands where like I could get sort of an idea of what the set list is going to be, and that's fine. It's cool to know what to expect sometimes, but I'm very excited to see what deep cuts are going to be brought out by every band on this tour. So this is there's a lot to take in, which is going to be awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah, as I said, really looking forward to this tour. A bunch of friends on this tour. Also, we're good friends with Cataclysm, have played a bunch of times with them, and Maurizio is managing our band. So it's pretty cool to have so many, people that we know on the run. And I think people will be excited to come to the shows. We are definitely excited to play again.
Yeah, Maurizio is like the long-lost co-host of this channel, because I've interviewed him, I think, more than anybody at this point. So, but going to when you joined Septicflesh, because I do find such a distinct difference. I think your percussion work is actually like really, really distinct in a way. There is a difference. There is a notable difference in the percussion aspect when you compare like Communion or the Great Mass, and then we listen to Codex Omega and Modern Primitive. When you joined up with Septicflesh, were you kind of looking at earlier material, being like, this is how I have to play, this is the technique, or were you kind of given a little bit of full range to bring your own mix into Septicflesh?
I was familiar with the older stuff, and because when I joined the band 2015, we were still touring with material like that has been written with Fotis Bernardo, so it was none of my material. And so, like, I would say a year or even if a bit more, I was playing drum parts that I didn't write, and so I kind of got an idea of what certain parts are and what is kind of typical for Septicflesh. But it was always important for me in any project I'm part of to add my own identity on top of it, so that the band of course sounds like the band, but I cannot erase the Krim in my Krim drumming, which I'm glad it's the case, because I want to be recognized. And the guys were really cool because the way how we write songs with Septicflesh is it's really a team effort, so everyone brings ideas to the table. I also am allowed to present riffs, and I'm more focused on the rhythmical sections or the rhythmical riffs. Of course, the melodic stuff, the typical Septicflesh tunes are written by the two brothers, Seth and Christos, and also Sotiris, the three original members. They're the ones that definitely shape the sound. But having also now Psychon in the band as a full member and songwriter, on the last album, we really put a lot of ideas together, and then we just exchange ideas, and some of the guys work on my ideas, and I work on their stuff. It's a bit complicated sometimes. It gets a bit chaotic. Sometimes I don't even know how we are able to finish an album. Mm-hmm. But in terms of drum stuff, they give me some certain ideas, what they were thinking of what beat could fit, but I have freedom, and I will present them different variations, different drum grooves for different beats. And like I said, I tried to do my own thing, and I would say that probably I'm not playing so much small detailed stuff like Fotis would have done, a lot of those cymbal accents or how to say it, like fancy stuff. I'm more the kind of guy that goes more for a straightforward approach, if you want to say it like this.
I've noticed that. Because I believe your first tour with Septicflesh, correct me if I'm wrong, but the first time I saw Septicflesh was on the tour that you guys did in 2015 with Moonspell and Death Star. And I believe that had to have been your first North American tour with the band, at least, right? So, and I've noticed how straightforward it is, like, and that's something I've noticed, like, that's something I found admirable. I feel like there's no build-up, which is a good thing. I feel like you just go right into it, which is how Septicflesh seem to approach their music all the time.
Yeah, then the dynamic comes with the songs itself. There's a dynamic, of course, in my playing, but also when you look at the whole song, how it's been arranged. Very often, especially with the new material, there are drum parts where I had to rethink drums, like in a way that I thought of more as a percussionist or playing almost like tribal beats rather than a classic drum beat to fit the song. So I would say there's a dynamic within the song structure. Certain songs are less, or certain parts in the song are less aggressive, and it goes down. But yeah, I try to be consistent, and sure, here and there are some fancy things. And if you would listen to the rough mix, the raw drum mix from Modern Primitive, you would hear probably more nuances and more things that I've done, which eventually in the dance mix didn't come through that well. But it is what it is. It's a lot of instruments happening, and I will not push my ego through and say like, I didn't hear that ghost note on the snare. You have to turn up the snare. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, as a drummer, have you always preferred to have music present before you were able to know what to contribute? Or through any project you've been in, has there ever been a time where maybe you had a whole drum pattern that maybe the band could write according to?
Not really. It's actually always started with a melody or with a riff, to be honest. I would say this only happens if there's a very specific rhythmical pattern, maybe on the kick drum, that would inspire a certain riff. But usually I rather prefer to have a riff that I can loop and then just work on different ideas. I do the same for my solo project. So I would start first on writing a couple of riffs, trying to figure out a tempo that works. And then I will go to the practice room and just try out different ideas and record them and just listen back and forward and, just keep playing after the riff is finished. Just, that's when I would say that a drum part will inspire the next part in the song. But I would never start just with drums alone and then someone writes on top of it. With Septicflesh, it's too complicated, to be honest. There's so many layers, and it's better to have a bit more, like for like 1 or 2 minutes, and you work on that, like certain riffs, than just doing it in small sections,
Have a lot of people, or not a lot, but like I've heard people argue that because the drums aren't a very melodic driven instrument, that it's not a very emotional driven instrument. But I mean, I listen to the intensity of what you contribute on Modern Primitive and Codex Omega and your solo work and Active Denial and all that, and I feel a lot of intensity and a lot of atmosphere within your percussion work. Is it fair? Do you almost look at what you lay down as a reflection of how you're feeling at the same time, or are you just focused on what the song really needs?
No, I mean, first of all, I'm glad that you noticed that, because it is something that I'm aiming for. I want to be, my drumming, I want it to be full of emotions and full of a certain flow and identity and character. And so it's my instrument where I can let out certain emotions, and how I can represent myself differently with that instrument. So even though, yes, it is not a melodic instrument, but for me, rhythm is the most primitive thing that is rooted in us people or humans. Because if you look at small kids, they would just start to bump their head once they hear a beat. So it's not actually that you need the melody. I think at first it's all about the essential, like the heartbeat, a rhythm. And having this in mind, that drums and drumming is so primal and such a deep connection with our emotions, and especially metal drums being aggressive and pushing and like wild almost, like coming back to this primitive aspect of, going to, I don't know, fucking hunt a mammoth or whatever. But it's just, I try to play with a certain emotion, and especially working with Jens Bogren on the last 2 albums, he was the kind of guy that would guide me during the recording session. And oftentimes when I played too sterile or I tried to be too tight, he would say like, yeah, it was okay, but we need something else. We need more life in it. I want you to play that section a bit more quiet, but the next one a bit harder to have a better contrast. And he often chose those takes where I felt, maybe I was a bit rushing, or I was maybe a bit angry because certain things didn't work at the previous take. But he was like, yeah, I like that emotion. This is what all the takes were nice, but this one has the attitude I'm looking for. It might not be the tightest one, but we're looking for that emotion. So I feel like Jens really did a great job in guiding me through that.
I'm really glad you brought up a point that really makes a lot of sense too, because I feel like while emotions, the melody the emotions that we would get from hearing melody, it almost feels like you need to hear that melody in order to feel that emotion, right? But like with rhythm, it's almost within our instinct. Whether you're a drummer or you're not a drummer, from something as we all experience, like our heart beating in a specific way. But then there's also like routines, like there's basic routines that a lot of humans gravitate towards. So I feel like drums are the most reflective instrument of just human instinct in humans in general, in a way. Not to discredit melody and how it resonates with us and how it, makes hair stand, on our skin and whatnot, but like I feel like we're born with rhythm already there, and melody is something that we have to experience more, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I'm 100% thinking the same. And if you really dive deep in that stuff, there is rhythm in everything in this universe. It's within us, with the heartbeat, the breathing, it's the cycles in the universe where certain things are repeating. There's a certain, you have stars emitting pulses of sound through space, and it's in a rhythm. So it's everywhere, yeah? And I feel like that's something, as you said, we are born with it. You don't have to actually learn it. I mean, okay, you have at some shows people that cannot clap straight and will rush, but still, I feel like that's something deep within us. And the melody, we connect with emotions, and it triggers something in our brain, emotions or memories. Let's say it like this, we can connect it better. But the rhythm, you don't have to know it before. I liked what you said. You don't have to know it before. It's just something that you feel instantly.
Yeah.
And you have
And going back to that clapping reference, first off, I'm probably one of those people who's very off time with their clapping in the audience. I apologize. But a clap sounds the same regardless of how on time you are or how rhythm you are. It sounds like this when it's really fast, or it sounds like this when it's really slow. Now, take melody, for example. When one person in the audience is singing that melody, it sounds awful 90% of the time. But when everybody in the audience is singing it together, then it sounds very harmonic and whatnot. So that's another good comparison right there if we're getting very theoretical about it.
Yeah, sure, because, the human mind makes a lot of things nicer than they actually are. It makes things more straight, even if they're not, Our vision plays tricks on us in a good way. The same goes for the hearing. If you would check, a drum part and you look on the grid and it's not tight, but somehow our brain makes it nice. And the same goes with singing. Well, a lot of people sing, then it's like, many are out of tune, but if few are on key, then all of a sudden our brain is like, they all can sing pretty well.
I think that's more towards the people digesting it more so than, I mean, I don't know about you, but as an artist, I look for every fucking imperfection and beat myself up over everything that could be off. And I'm sure you've done the same too, right?
And I hate it. I literally hated this about myself, or not hate it. I don't want to hate myself. It's annoying to having a hard time enjoying music from a different perspective than being a musician. What I mean is that I listen to a song without any analyzation of thinking of the drummer or imagining the drummer in my head or seeing the musician play it. It's cool to have that skill to isolate in my head or shift the focus. When I listen to music, I can really make things louder in my brain, so I can dissect a song while I listen it. Okay, I listen to the guitar and I imagine the guitar player and it gets louder in my mind. But this needs brain power, and I often actually listen now music that has nothing to do with metal or something that is easy to digest, and I can listen it to without having my mindset as a musician, rather than just enjoying it for the music what it is, without any musician like, what did he do there, blah blah blah.
Well, and we're not discrediting guitar players. Sorry, Christos, if you're watching this, but like I'm not. But like drums and vocalists too. These are where the two intersect. It's a very emotional driven instrument. There's a lot of creativity and a lot of theory that goes behind it, but it's also a very physically demanding instrument. I know people who work out 3 times a day, are super strong and they play the guitar just fine. And I know people who look like they're going to drop dead in 2 minutes who could also play the guitar very, very well. With drums, you need to have the physical aspect of it as well as the creative aspect behind it as well. Do you find that sometimes maybe they aren't intersecting? Like maybe you're really inspired and you have a great idea on how to lay down the drums, but your body isn't lined up with it. Do you almost have to like kind of force one over the other or something like that?
It's an everyday struggle, to be honest, to just pull off those things we're doing, because it's so physical, and I'm not getting younger, and it's a daily kind of figuring out how do you feel, how does your body feel, do you have do certain limbs ache, somehow like you sit behind the drum kit on the one day, the pedals feel fantastic, on the next day without changing anything, they feel like butter beneath your feet and you don't know what the fuck happened. And you only know that it's you that has changed because maybe you didn't sleep enough, or it's very often that I also need time to get back to, or when I switch between projects, I need time to adjust to a specific playing style, because every band requires a specific drumming technique. May it be a full leg motion approach, which literally means lift your legs up and down, but your leg is very heavy, so it is quite exhausting for the hip muscles. Others are very fast, so you try to play more with your ankles. You have to kind of get your muscles to react faster. And so it's not so easy for me, and I think also for other drummers, to switch back and forward. And this is kind of the eternal search, or the eternal struggle of being a drummer that plays metal too. Like having certain techniques, but also being aware that not every day you can use those techniques, because you might have less energy, or you are tired, or you have too much adrenaline. You have to kind of adjust on a daily level.
And then the final question I have with regarding to this is also drums, I think, are the most under pressure. Whether you're playing smooth jazz or you're playing country music or you're playing grindcore, the famous saying, your drummer sucks, your band sucks. And and I mean, I've watched some intense drum kits, how crazy, the setup is and everything. And it's just really, like, I'll put it to you this way, I can never want to be a drum tech, ever, because it takes just one piece of hardware, just one little screw, maybe on the cymbal stand, or maybe the snare not being tightened enough to fuck up everything in that song. I mean, how do you just overcome that pressure, in a way?
I don't have a drum tech, I do it myself.
Well, that helps.
Well, that helps in a one way, that I know that, if something is fucked up, then it was my fault. It can be hard, of course, to set up your drums every day and break it down on tour. It's something very also physical demanding, which you have to do on top of playing. But yeah, drums are a very complex instrument. Not only playing it, that's the one thing, but also having a great drum tech that memorizes all the different, heights and what angle certain drums are, because every drummer is different. There is not one drum kit that is identical in the way of a setup. So every drummer has its own ideas of where certain things have to be. And I feel like with metal drummers, as it is so physical and almost like Formula One driving style, so like the cars in Formula One are really dialed into the specific driver, and even if you just switch one small thing, the driver will feel it. So some metal drummers are the same, even though I must say that some of the best lessons I learned were that you have to play some tour with the worst gear ever. They give you a house kit that is really, fucked up, and you just kind of try to figure out how to do it. And during sound check, you just have to pull out some MacGyver moves with like zip tie and gaffer tape and all this kind of things. And it's still not what you're used to. And you just try to make it happen. And those shows are tough, but once you manage them or master them, you're like, okay, seems like the gear is not always the most important thing, or how to set it up. It's just a different approach to certain things. But yeah, I would say metal drummers are more picky with their setup, and it's harder than
yeah, definitely. I'll put it this way. I've been to plenty of local venues, and I would say every time that there is some sort of fight between the band and the staff at the venue, 9 times out of 10, I even once saw a local band just walk away really pissed off, and I was out like smoking a cigarette, and I said, "Let me guess, you guys have to use the house kit." And they're like, "How did you know?" I'm like, "What else could the fucking reason be?"
Yeah.
Like,
but honestly, as a drummer, you're really screwed, because none of my bandmates will ever understand it. Only one time, if their luggage gets missed and they get a crappy guitar from someone and they have to perform on this guitar, and they will feel at least one time how I feel like having to play on an instrument which is not mine. And then they struggle, and I know, because it's a luxury that they just take their guitar on the plane, and they take it out of the case, and that's it. For me, I fly with cymbals and my pedals, so not even the snare is the same. I have to check the drum every day, especially when you have like South America tour, where you have to fly every day, and every day is a different country. You start from zero every day. You don't. Sometimes you have a paper where it says what you have, and then you show up and half of it is not functioning.
Oh my God.
That's what I say. MacGyver skills are highly recommended.
And that everybody watching this, please give your drummer a nice hug, because they need it. We have, in our local scene, we do have a National Hug a Drummer Day. There's a reason why that holiday exists.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Next time a guitar player is pissed that their strings are need to be replaced, just remember, at least you're not a drummer.
At least you're not a drummer.
Yeah.
It's an awesome instrument, but it's such a pain in the ass also.
Yeah,
so many levels.
But you know what? That's also something, because I've noticed this too. And again, I'm not discrediting guitar players or singers or anything like that. All I'm saying is, I've seen non-passionate guitar players who could still shred circles and play Joe Satriani to the album and all that. Every drummer that I've met, no matter how good that they are, or whether they could do blast beats for 20 BPMs or they're very basic, every drummer I met is very passionate about it, because it's a labor of love throughout. Everything from the setup to the practice. Also, having those cymbals in your face every day is going to make your ears ring quite a bit. Like, there's a lot of pain and a lot of, dedication to going behind it. So every drummer, there's a reason why every drummer that I've interviewed, I always have to give that little extra bit of kindness towards them.
Thank you. It's much appreciated. Drummers are really the nerds, and actually most of the time the most organized people in the band, even though the others don't want to hear that. But just have a chat with the drummer and you will usually know that, or realize they have their shit together. And if you ever have the chance to talk to Francesco from Flesh God, he's been in all positions in his band. He's been now the vocalist and bass player and also guitar player, and he used to be the drummer. And just ask him, what's the difference between drums and vocals and guitar? And he told me, man, you cannot imagine, like, drums is such a different level. It's so much harder than playing guitar and sing. You cannot compare. So he's the guy that knows it all. And he's the proof that, yeah, playing drums is quite difficult.
I interviewed him in 2019 when they were here with Hypocrisy, and that guy is the death metal renaissance man. That's what I will call him.
Yeah. True. That's true, man.
Yeah. So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for telling me your story. Just there's a lot of stuff to promote. Obviously, Modern Primitive, we're well into that record cycle. I know that you also have The Eternal Return, which is your latest solo record that's out there. The new Death album coming out very soon. You have a lot to promote, so feel free to plug everything here.
Okay, so first of all, yeah, please show up to the tour. We're really looking forward to. There's a bunch of shows happening over in the States. So if you're near, we would really appreciate it if you come and hang out with us, support, metal scene. And yeah, also for my other project, Doth, we have a new album coming out called The Deceivers. It will be out 3rd of May, pretty soon, on Metal Blade Records. And if you're
I'm interviewing Sean in a couple days to discuss it. So
just say hi from his drummer, Krim.
Yeah, will do.
What else? Yeah, just I don't want to actually just promote myself. I'd rather just promote in general shows and this whole culture of going to shows, supporting your artists. Because I realized you just need a bunch of people that are really determined to support you. Like you have those super fans that go to the shows or that go buy your merch, or they donate here and there some money that the band can survive. And this is really what bands are appreciating the most. Yeah. And it's a big community, and I want to say a big thank you to everyone who does that. It's a lovely community, and I want it to be the same. So just be cool to each other, come to the shows, and let's have some fun, man.
I appreciate you saying that to end this, because I know we're also going to get a lot of guitar player hate mail after this.
Oh, I love you all, guitar players. I even love you all when you give me some random ass alien drums which are unplayable. I totally get it. How should you know? But it is what it is. Let the drummer also have some saying. But all the guitar players are awesome out there. I appreciate it. It's still not an easy instrument, but yeah. Let us rant a little bit.
Well, I have a guitar player interview in approximately 20 minutes, so we'll get his side of the story. But
yeah, of course, man.
Yep. Thank you so much, everybody. Krim of the almighty Septicflesh. Catch them on their tour with Decapitated, Cataclysm, and Allegiant, and be sure to check out their latest record, Modern Primitive. We'll see you next time on Heavy New York.
See you again.